Sold it, sold it, sold it. $600,000. Thank you. Hi, I'm Joe Wilson, Wilson Auctioneers Incorporated. This is David Brewer, our Executive Director, and my son-in-law. David is pretty much running the show now, and I think this segment, David, we want to talk about what we call multi-par auctions or multi-tract auctions. Talk a little bit about that.
I would say probably 50% of our auctions go through a multi-par process, and what that does is it gives the buyers the opportunity to buy maybe a 40-acre piece of an 800-acre farm, or maybe one lot out of 3 lots on Lake Hamilton, something along those lines. But multi-par gives the bidders the opportunity to buy what they come to an auction to buy. They can either buy it all or they can buy part of it. So it's really a phase of an auction that there's no other way you can sell a property like this other than auction, and it's a little bit intricate, but once you know how to do it, it works really well for buyers and sellers. I tell you what I love about the multi-par process, David, is that if someone comes to, you know, if we're selling an 800-acre tract, for instance, like the farm we sold not long ago, not everybody can buy 800 acres. Not everybody, even if they can, wants 800 acres. Absolutely. But a lot of people might want 40 acres or 100 acres or, excuse me, 200 acres. And that's why the multi-par system works so well. If you come to an auction and it's in a great location and you want 40 acres, you're going to have an opportunity to buy 40 because of the way the process. Let's talk a little bit. You know, you mentioned it is a phase. Obviously, I'll kind of mention phase 1 of the auction. For instance, if we have an auction and we have 7 tracts like the Dewar Farm recently, we go through the first phase and offer those individual tracts and record a bid, what we call put on the board, a bid, and then we go into phase 2. Phase 2 is any combinations or any individual tract. You can put those back up. Obviously, there is an increase in the bid price, but we take those bids from phase 1 and add those together. So if you want tracts 2 and 3 or 4, 5, and 6, you add those bid amounts up. There's an increase, and then you can be the high bidder. So or the whole farm. Or the whole farm, and we have that happen. Years ago, you offered it in tracts, and then one lump sum, and that was it. And it was over. And it was over. Now this gives the ability to offer, like the Dewar Farm you mentioned, we had 7 tracts of land in that auction. It was 190 acres that we broke into 7 tracts. That gives everybody an opportunity to buy what they came to buy. And for our sellers, it maximizes what that property brings, because there's sometimes buyers say, I want this 40, but I could care less about the rest of the farm. Yeah, so, and I will give a lot more for that 40 than the 800. So that's why the multi-par system works so well. You know, and what I like about it too, and we mentioned it earlier, you don't leave anybody out. If I show up at an auction and I just want my 40 acres that adjoins my existing property, I'm going to have an opportunity to buy that, period. If I'm willing to give a little bit more, which I normally am and would be, I'm going to have an opportunity to buy it. So that's what's so great about it. The multi-par system works. There's no doubt about that. Well, let's go over and we'll do a little diagram and show how we broke up the Dewar Farm and give a little explanation real quick on how it kind of works. Let's do it. All right. Sure. The first thing we do is we lay out the farm, and we actually look at what the attributes are to the farm, where the road frontage is, utilities, water, electricity, all those different things. For this farm, it was important to look at fencing, ponds, pastures, barns, because this was a cattle farm. So we looked at that, and we had Highway 64 frontage. We also had a county road that came around and through the property. We offered the house on a small tract, and then we were able to break up the rest of the farm based on the fenced pastures that were already there with barns and ponds on them. The process works, there's no doubt about that. And again, this is a prime example. You know, if you want a house on 2.5 acres, you can do that. Or you can buy the house in 2.5 acres in the 26-acre tract 4 or the 31 acres tract 2. You can put it together, you can buy any piece. It brings the most money, it maximizes the return to our seller, and that's why you do a multi-par auction. It works, David. Absolutely, and with over 20 years of experience of doing this exact type of auction, we can bring that expertise to your property and show you how it can work, what you need to do with your property, and what it'll entail. And it doesn't cost you anymore, and obviously it's the best way to maximize what your property brings on auction day. Go to wilsonauctioneers.com.